All right, we get it rolling on the Krug Show Monday afternoon. Hope everybody's having a great weekend and beginning to your week. The Cohn Zone meets the Krug Show on Mondays. We do this often on Mondays. Last week we did it on Tuesday, but this week we're back on our Monday schedule. Of course, on this end, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 to 8. Go say hi to Damon and Mary. Tell them that Larry Krueger sent you. And we're also brought to you by Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles down in the Monterey Peninsula. Check them out as well. Anthony Catania is a great guy. And they are in Pacific Grove, and you can give them a call. They're at 831-521-5264. What's going on, Grant? How are you, man?
I'm having a great day. How are you, Larry?
You know what? I'm also having a great day. Mondays, this time of the year, we're done with the rain, the beautiful weather. I traded in some old bikes for kind of a new bike, so now I'm taking regular bike rides on the trails out here. So I'm feeling pretty good. Getting ready for watch a little Giants Dodgers tonight. Okay, but I have not gone. It has not gone unnoticed that. There's been this ongoing dialogue between yourself and the supporters of your channel and Lombardi and the supporters of his channel on Ricky Pearsall and how he looked at minicamp. And it seems like we have two diametrically different opinions on Pearsall. And I thought we could get into that right out of the chute. Okay, what did you think of how Pearsall looked at minicamp last Friday? And I guess what is your primary concern about the player after watching him for a day on the practice field?
Okay, good question. He looks like a very good route runner. He can start and stop. He can change direction. He looks like he has agility. I know they say he ran a 4.41. I didn't see a guy that looked like he ran a 4.41, but it was just one day. And I'm open-minded to him showing speed at another time. But he looks as advertised in that sense. Then they played the 7. I mean, you were there. They played the 7-on-7 drill. There were 16 plays. 4 of the targets went to him. He didn't catch any of them. Was it all his fault? No. Still, there were some reps where he didn't even get targeted. He was going against Renardo Green. He got pressed and pretty much blanketed. So it felt like, was he great? No. Was he bad? No. But the fact that they couldn't get in the ball, I do a thing called the good and the not so good. Everyone does their own practice report. So I have to put something in a section. And I do it. Some people would do good and bad. I do not so good because it's just practice. It's not too serious. And I felt the fact that they couldn't get him the ball, the fact that I thought he had one drop was not so good. But I'm not saying he's a bust. That's the way I said it. And I think, I don't know if David watches my stuff, but he made a practice report and was like definitely referencing me and saying it's not true that he was actually great at practice, and anyone who says otherwise is not trusted or reputable. Which is like, whoa, how can you be great in a practice where you don't catch the ball? That's just new to me. But maybe I just don't know what I'm looking at. I don't know. What did you see, Larry?
Well, I mean, okay, so I did a full-on practice report video as well, and I didn't really touch on Pearsall that much because to me, I was there. I watched it all. I saw exactly what you saw in that they threw him 4 balls. He didn't catch any of them. I would say only really one of them could you actually put on him. The others were, I mean, some guy from Davidson College hurled a ball 20 yards above his head. And that was one. There were some bad missed throws. At least 2 of the 4 were bad missed.
There was the one up the sideline where he was wide open against zone coverage deep, and the pass, he got like a fingertip on it, but it was overthrown. That was 2.
That was from Mordecai, and that was kind of like a Trey Lance deep ball that was like a little too flat, I thought.
Flat.
I put that more on Mordecai than on Pearsall.
For speed, I mean, it touched one finger. I'd like to see like a little burst to catch it or something, but sure, it could have been on Mordecai.
Yeah, what I saw, okay, this is what I saw.
He ran a slant.
And you on the slant, you thought he
should have either broken up, or he wasn't open, or he dropped it, or it did. I mean, he wasn't open on that one. That seemed like that wasn't a great rep. And then There was the one on the right side where he ran a curl and the ball was over his head.
Right.
Yeah.
We're getting such a limited sample size. So, and this is why it's hard. It's like the person who says, I went to camp. Oh, really? I was there for all 21 practices. Oh, I only went once. Well, okay. Well, if you go once, you could see anything in one particular day. There have been days that Cam Latu made catches. It doesn't mean that Cam Latu caught the ball well this summer. He was atrocious. Or last summer, he was atrocious. So it's like if you get a glimpse, it's not the same as what we see every day. Now in this particular situation, we only got one day. I thought his you could see what makes him him, right? He's got good feet, he's got good stop and start, he's got great change of direction. He can turn you into a pretzel and turn you around and make you. He gains separation. He doesn't gain separation the way Tyreek Hill gained separation, where he's just bursts by you. He gets separation in that he's so good with the footwork and the stop and start and the route running and all the elusiveness that he brings to the table that he creates separation. What I was looking for is what I felt like I saw out there was a guy who is going to create separation with his moves, but is going to then he's going to be, gain that separation. But then as soon as he gets into the meat and potatoes of his actual route, the corner is going to regain that connection to him and close that separation. Cause he doesn't look like he ran 4.41 for the stopwatch, but to me, he didn't look like a 4.41 guy. And he looks like the kind of guy that's going to gain separation on the transitions, but as soon as he gets into the route, he's going to lose that separation that he created because he's not that explosive. So that's what I saw. So I didn't want to, put him down because it's a little bit of a projection on my part, but I feel like I left that workout have a pretty good feel for what his strengths and weaknesses are. His strengths are he can free himself up. His weaknesses are that once he gets into the length of his route, the corner can close again on him. And he doesn't have that I'm separating and you may get connected with me, but it's not going to be till the next play. He can create separation and lose separation on the same play based on what I saw. So I thought he looked good, but I'm expecting the first round draft choice to look like far and away the best athlete on the field, that I could be scouting the thing from a satellite and I should be able to find the first round pick. And he didn't stand out on that level to me. So that's where I'm at. I can see where you're both coming from. I can see where Dave. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, let me say what I saw from him, not just from those particular targets. But it seems to me that the most interesting reps from him were when he went against Renardo Green. And he went against Renardo Green a few times in 7-on-7s. And when Green pressed him, Pearsall didn't get open. He didn't get targeted, didn't get open. One time, Green lined up about 9 yards off him. Pearsall ran a stutter go, and it was beautiful. It was just beautiful. And I thought Green grabbed him. I thought Pearsall got away from him and was open deep. And that was the one that Tanner Mordecai threw away, which I was watching Pearsall. I was locked in on that matchup, and I can't imagine why a quarterback would throw the ball away in 7-on-7s. I never even heard of that. So I was surprised that the ball didn't go to Pearsall. That could have been a touchdown right there. I wasn't that impressed with Tanner Mordecai, I got to say. But again, this was like 20 minutes and 16 plays, and it was just one day. So it was interesting. Like, the book on Pearsall is if you press him, he has a tough time getting away from that. I saw that. But if you don't press him, he's a handful. He's a really good route runner.
Yeah. I mean, and he's got the full boat of head and shoulder fakes. And, he's got a way to contort his body to create separation, and he plays off of the defender well. But you're right. As far as that, what I did not see is I didn't see the extra gear that you typically would see when a guy runs close to a 4.4 flat. He's literally almost in the 4.3s. Usually guys who run near 4.3, whatever, show that extra gear, that extra burst that allows
He's
them
not
to
even wearing
separate.
pads. There's no pads. It's just a helmet.
I didn't
But
see that
here's
in
one more
this
thing. One
particular
more
workout,
question I
but
have
it's
with
a
him.
small sample.
One more question I have with him. He ran a dig route. The pass was high. He couldn't get up and get it. It was quite high. But the thing is, that dig route is the primary route that these wide receivers run in this offense. And all of them are good at it, except Debo. And the reason Debo isn't that good at it is because he has short arms. And it's kind of a dangerous throw. You got to throw it around linebackers and safeties. And if you don't have much of a catch radius and you can't go up and get passes that are slightly off, like you get intercepted. So it seems like Debo gets around that because he can do all these other things, screens, but when it's time to really throw the ball to a guy who isn't a yak god like him, it's dig route to someone like Ayuk or Kittle or Jennings, who all have long arms that can catch passes over their head. And is that Pearsall? Can he do that? And if he can't, then what is he going to do in this offense? I want to see that. How does he do with the dig routes over the middle? I know he has the quickness to get open, but does he have the frame to really come down with those throws consistently? He's a little lighter. I mean, they thought Pettis could, and then Pettis got hit. So I want to know. I want to see what Pearsall's like on those routes in particular. Otherwise, he's going to have to be like Debo, and he's not a yak threat like Debo. Got to be good over the middle.
Pearsall ran a 4.05 short shuttle, which was the sixth fastest of any player at any position in the combine. So he's got that short area quickness down. There's no question. To me, I have two questions. Does he have really three? Does he have the extra gear? Didn't necessarily see that in this workout, but he may still have that. Well, that to me is kind of still undefined. How tough is he? Now, the 49ers say that, that he's got rare toughness, that they loved his toughness, that they loved his physicality going over the middle. I still very much am questioning that. And then my last question is, does he have, once he separates, does he stay separated from the corner, or do they close that on him? And the guys in the perimeter in the NFL oftentimes do have that extra gear. So, I see a guy that looks like he's going to be, at times covered, because he doesn't have that extra gear. And then I think if it comes down to second, it's like once he starts playing with Brock Purdy and Brock starts, moving off platform and does this guy then move in concert with Purdy? I think he probably will. And then I think he'll be able to create secondary separation when Purdy moves. But I'm really concerned about, is the guy a guy that can make big plays for you? And once he takes hits across the middle, does he start, alligator arming it and short arming it? And suddenly he doesn't want to take those hits because he's not the biggest guy. We're talking about a guy who's 188 pounds or whatever. So I thought
if he doesn't have the extra gear and he doesn't necessarily have the size to go over the middle and last, then it's like, that's kind of he may still be good, but the problem is they're probably going to be wide receivers taken after him, like A.D. Mitchell or others who can beat the press, do have breakaway speed, have the size to go over the middle. Like, that's the issue here. It's not that he's going to be bad. I don't think any of us looked at him and was like, oh, that guy's A.J. Jenkins. Like, no.
He's not
he
A.J.
looks
Jenkins.
real smooth. He looks pretty good. Like, he does certain things real well. But is he a first round pick? We'll see.
If he is, he's going to be a first round pick who's effective, not awesome. Like, I have a feeling that, like, if he's good and he's going to make plays, he's going to make plays with bodies in the area. So, he doesn't have the kind of gear to create the kind of separation and keep the kind of separation that gets him in the clear. I don't see that. I see him with guys draped all over him in the middle of the field. Every time he catches it, he's going to take a hit. People say, oh, he's Julian Edelman. Well, you know what? Julian Edelman was rarely tough. And if he's Julian Edelman and he's rarely tough, like I said it in the video that I made the other day, if this guy is legitimately tough and physical, then he's going to be really good, because that means it's not going to bother him to catch it in a crowd and take a big lick, and that he's just going to do that over and over. But I don't see that extra gear, and I don't see that, man, I separated from you, and now I'm running down the field, and you still are playing from the trail position. I think the corners that he's going to go against are going to have that extra gear, and they're going to close that on him. So we'll see. We'll see. But
We'll see. We'll see.
I
Yeah, I
wouldn't
mean,
say it was an overwhelming. Like, I liked what I saw, but what I saw, I expected to see, which was good footwork, good
Yep.
hands, real, as you said, that one play where he had Green and he gave him kind of the head and shoulder fake, and Green kind of bit on it a little bit, and then he just kind of blew by.
it was a
Yeah,
nice stutter go.
Yeah,
It was nice.
that I think that's what I think he can do. My question is, can he keep that separation? Can he extend it? You know, some guy, if Tyreek gives you a move at the line of scrimmage and runs by you, you're not catching him. You're not going to go close that on him. This guy, if he gives you the stutter and go, and he's got you by a step and a half, there's NFL corners all over this league. They're going to close that. So if the ball's not on him right away, he's going to have to make contested catches and take hits and so on and so forth. So
The reason I want to see more from Pearsall, and I feel like it's going to be tough, but it's like Dante Pettis ran a great stutter go. He did.
Yeah. He was
ran
fluid.
a great one. He ran a great post corner. He was a really, really good route runner. That was never the question with him, ever. It was, can you beat press? Can you go over the middle? And by the end, it was, can you catch the ball? I think he was so in his head about the physicality of it. He was dropping a lot for the Niners, and then he was out. So I'm not saying this guy's Dante Pettis, but he's built like Pettis. So we need to see how he really responds to the physicality of the game.
I think Pettis ran 4.55 or something like that. I don't know. I'd have to look
He
that up.
never actually ran because he was coming off an ankle injury. There are legends that he ran a 4.4 at a Washington Pro Day, but I don't think he actually has an official time.
I think this guy looks like a hair faster and maybe a little bit more physical. That guy seemed a little bit more like fluid, but not fast or tough. So, I mean, it's just like one of the other.
He was a really, really good punt returner in college, which is something that even Pearsall
never used
really
him
wasn't.
that.
Yeah.
They didn't use him that way. But I mean, like on the line of scrimmage, you're getting off the line. You either have to beat a guy with speed or you have to like literally knock his hands down and get off the line. You either need to have toughness or speed. And Dante had neither. This guy looks like he's got a little bit more speed, a little bit more toughness, but he's not awesome in either. And I was expecting as a first round pick that he would have kind of shined, and he didn't necessarily shine to me. So
here's the main knock on Pearsall, according to NFL.com's Lance Zierlein. Weaknesses: doesn't have the suddenness to slip past committed press looks. I felt like I saw that at rookie minicamp. I see what they're talking about. I completely see that. Yep.
Yeah. Or even when he does make the move to burn you, even if you fall for it hook, line, and sinker, and he's got two steps on you, as long as you're not on the ground, you can turn and run and make up that cushion. So that's my concern, is that, okay, he beats you off the line. Now he runs 4 steps into his route, and now his 2-step advantage is down to a step because the corner's now closing that gap. So it's going to be like, how in step is he, or how locked in is he with Purdy? And can Purdy get him the ball when he creates the separation? Because the separation is going to close. And it's kind of, I see the same thing a little bit with Juwan, to be honest. Juwan is a strong guy, and he'll make some real strong moves at the line, and he'll create a step or two of separation. But as soon as he gets into the route, here comes the corner, here comes the say, you know what I mean? We're closing that gap down. So, it's the difference between big difference making speed and just good solid speed. To me, if you said what if I didn't have 4.41, what would I think Pearsall would run? I would say like 4.49, something like that, high 4.4s. But instead he's closer to 4.39. Yeah. I didn't see that out there.
Yeah. I mean, so much of the Niners passing game is dependent on timing. It's a quick passing game. The ball has to come out on time, and you have to be where you're supposed to be in the pattern at the right times. And Ayuk can do that. Jennings can do that. I want to see if Pearsall can do that, or if just getting your hands on him, was that tie him up long enough to the point where Purdy has to look elsewhere because the ball's coming out in 2 seconds. That was the issue with Pettis. And early on, a lot of people thought Pettis was going to be really, really good. He caught a lot of passes his rookie year. He could really shake people and create separation around the sideline. But I mean, we saw what happened. I don't know. I want to see that with him.
Pettis made no impact. I mean, the only impact he
No.
made was against the Niners for the Bears on that broken play and Trey Lance's start at Soldier Field before the rain came. And that, other than that, I mean, Pettis was a total non-factor. But I get the feeling that this guy is a little bit more refined as a route runner than Pettis, has better and more footwork and more things he can do to shake a corner. But I'd see the same kind of issue. Not the biggest and not the most explosive. So even if he beats you, you still got a chance to run him down.
Here's my question for you with him.
Yeah.
Then we'll move on. Does he strike you as someone who's going to be averaging 15, 16, 17 yards a catch and really like Ayuk, an explosive player, or someone who's going to be averaging 9, 10, 11, 12 yards a catch, more like a possession receiver?
To me, he's absolutely a possession receiver. He might be a damn good possession receiver, but he's a possession receiver. I mean, I comped him to Danny Amendola. Now, Amendola had a 27-inch vertical. This guy jumps 42 inches. Amendola didn't run the same 40 as this guy did, but I just remember Amendola playing for the Rams, tying up Carlos Rogers, all these little stop and start routes. Carlos couldn't hang with him. But then as soon as Amendola would blow by him and get into the clear, now Carlos, could run better than him and would, even in his veteran status, and would kind of eat up that ground. I see the same thing with Pearsall. He's going to create separation, and then that separation is going to get eaten up, and hopefully the ball gets there first. And I think he's going to be lots and lots of contested catches, lots and lots of middle of the field catches, and much more of a possession guy. I don't believe, and maybe I'm wrong on this, he may be effective, but I don't believe he's going to be their number one receiver ever. I think he's going to be a great continuity piece that keeps your offense on the field and keeps drives alive, and in that way he'll be maddening for defenses. I think he'll be effective, but I don't see physically dominant traits from this guy, and he was a first-round pick. So that's why, people can say I hate him. I don't hate him. I compare him to Danny Amendola, and I think Amendola was good. So Amendola played 14 years. Amendola led the NFL in kickoff return yards. Amendola has 2 Super Bowl rings. Was he ever the number one weapon for Tom Brady? No. But he was a contributor and a damn good one and a very productive player for a decade plus in the NFL. That's what I think this guy's going to be. So,
well, look, if Pearsall's going to be a possession receiver, as you say, he's going to need to really do some great work over the middle, particularly at dig route with bodies around him. That's a tough one, right? You're running with your back to the safeties. Maybe the ball's a little high. Maybe you got to jump and catch the ball, sell out, and you could get hit by 1, 2, 3, 4 people on the way down. And you got to get back up and do it again. Jennings has no problem doing that. Ayuk has no problem doing that. Can Pearsall do it? Not just from a toughness standpoint, but he's got shorter arms. Is that too risky to throw that past him over the middle? Or can he create the separation? Can he go up and make the catch? He made some incredible catches in college. I don't know. I'm completely open-minded, but that's what I'm sort of looking for when we watch in OTAs this week.
Yeah. Can he maintain the separation that he creates? That would be my biggest question for him. I did find it interesting in the Matt Barrows piece with Tariq Ahmad, the new scouting director. He cites the kid's toughness and ability to go over the middle. All right. Well, we'll find out.
AKA we learned from Dante Pettis, and he's not Dante Pettis. I'm open-minded. I don't think they'd make the same mistake twice.
And, here's the other thing. The answers that we needed, and this is why I didn't do a big, long dissertation on the guy, the answers that we needed to get the answers to, or, the information that we needed was not available in the minicamp. When you're running routes against air and little gauntlet drills and, on a beautiful May day in Santa Clara with no defenders, that's not playing wide receiver in the NFL. So I liked what I saw. I expected to like what I saw. My big question is toughness, and can he maintain the separation that he creates. And I don't feel like we're going to know that until we see him in the preseason.
Okay, last thing I want to say real quick, and then we'll move on. Dante
Yeah,
Pettis' junior year at Washington. Dante Pettis' junior year at Washington, Pac-12. 53 catches, 822 yards, 15 touchdown catches. Pearsall's junior year at Arizona State, Pac-12. 48 catches, 580 yards, 4 touchdown catches. I'm scared, Larry.
Yeah. No,
Scared.
I know.
There's too much overlap here.
I know. The one thing that made me so uncomfortable about seeing him go at 31, and it's not like I don't like him. I like him. I like some of the things he does. The one thing, though, is that for a guy who's got that good of ball skills, that good of head fakes, that good of separation ability as far as moves and footwork and that kind of thing, there's not a ton of college production. Now, is that because Florida didn't have good quarterbacks? Is that you blame that on ASU? You blame that on Florida? For a guy who's got the kind of instincts and ball skills that this guy has and route running ability, I would have thought he would have had gaudy numbers. And instead, he's got kind of pedestrian numbers. So that's a little concerning. I got to
he played on a good team at Arizona State that final year. And, he had Jaden Daniels. And he only had 48. He did lead the team in catches and receiving yards, but I don't know. It's kind of strange.
Well, he looked good, but we didn't see any of the key factors, which are, can he maintain separation? How tough of a guy is he once he gets starched in the middle of the field? Does he keep running that route with the same conviction and the same belief and the same energy and the same speed, or does he start anticipating the hits and that kind of thing? All those questions are still TBD. Will be determined in July and August. So that's why I didn't have tons to say about him. It's just that I like what I saw. I saw a lot of the same footwork that I saw in the film. I saw there, so that's good. But there was no sample size. If Purdy was out there throwing dimes against coverage, and we would have a better idea. But instead, the quarterback play was just off enough that I don't think we can really determine if Pearsall,
was
what
good
exactly,
or great or amazing or not good. I agree. I agree.
He was solid. He definitely didn't. It wasn't. What the hell? There's sometimes you get to rookie minicamp and you look up and you're like, what the hell? And that it wasn't a what the hell.
I don't think anyone had a moment like that this year.
No, not this year. But Chilo Rashal was a what the hell. Israel Ifiani was a what the hell.
AJ Jenkins kept falling over. I remember that. I was there.
AJ Jenkins. There was a corner.
Why are you on the ground?
There was a corner years ago when the Niners drafted him in the second round. His name was Adrian Hardy. And the first day I saw him, I'm like, oh my God, this guy's truly long, really, really long legs, couldn't mirror anybody, kept tripping over his own feet. It was like, what? You took this guy in the third round, Adrian Hardy, or second round? He looked bad. I thought Carlos Hyde never really looked very good. And, Kentuan Balmer never looked very good. So there are what the hell moments in minicamp, but this wasn't one of them. But
no,
it also wasn't the kind of thing where we'd say, you know what? Put a wrap on that. This guy looks awesome. Pro Bowl. Get ready. You don't need Debo. Somebody wants Ayuk. Somebody wants Debo. Fine, move on. You got this guy. No, it's not like no.
I just think it's funny how people get all worked up. It's like, don't listen to that guy. It's like, whoa. What are we talking about, man? Yeah. 16 plays. No one's getting worked up.
Right. Well, and it's minicamp. But as a rule, it is proof though. There were times last year where you and I didn't necessarily see the Purdy camp practice the same way. And I'm coming off the field and I'm listening to you as you're holding up the camera, and I'm thinking, I didn't see that. But you know what? That kind of the beauty
every day. That happens.
Yeah, that's the beauty of this thing.
Yeah.
It's the other thing is in camp, and I'll say this: in camp, an interception, almost every interception is a pick six. So and yet if you say a quarterback threw a pick six, You
It
know, you're
sounds
like,
worse.
it's the worst play a quarterback could ever play, come up with.
He threw
And yet
7 pick sixes in one day.
and yet anybody who picks the ball off and can
Yeah.
run 10 yards past where everybody's standing,
It's
technically
true.
they get a pick six.
Yeah, 'cause the defensive players are coached to finish the play, and the offensive players are not
They're just
really in
done.
that
They're just
situation.
done.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, oh, he
Yeah.
caught it. Now
That's
he's going
true.
to run for a touchdown.
That's true. Mhm.
But yeah, overall, I would say Pierce will look pretty good, but tune in camp and let's see what it actually looks like when the bullets are really flying. All right. Topic 2. Ross Dwelly jumped ship today. He's now in Atlanta. Is this a significant loss or not? What do you think of
Yes.
Dwelly? There was talk that the Niners may re-sign Dwelly. He was 29. He's a receiving tight end. Believe it or not, he started 17 games over 6 seasons, which I would never have believed that. Last year he played in 12 games. That was a shocker to me. I don't remember him in 12 games. He had 1 reception for 12 yards. Undrafted free agent out of the University of San Diego in 2018. He's landed in the league and has found a way to last. He wound up on IR in January with a high ankle sprain that ended his year. Does it matter? Does it bother you in any way that Dwelly moved on to the Falcons?
No, I think good for him. I don't know why the Niners kept him for so long because they never threw him the ball. But whenever they did throw him the ball, he'd catch it. It was the strangest thing. He's not the greatest blocker, although he would give a good effort. And I couldn't imagine he was the greatest special teams player, although he was a core member of their special teams. It seemed like they use him in all the wrong ways for all the wrong reasons. And now he's almost 30. He probably won't have much of a career, but he could say he was on the Niners for a long time. It'd be interesting to see if the Falcons actually throw him the ball. Because that's the one thing. Like his hands are elite. And although he runs like a 5 flat, he's got a little shake to his route running. He could really catch a 7-yard pass.
And he spent a lot of time in the weight room trying to get stronger. I mean, so
Yeah.
he 2 years ago, he blew some blocks. He blew one really bad one that got the quarterback hit. But, he's a great receiver. And he was a great receiver at University of San Diego.
Yeah.
But it is interesting. I wonder, because I watched the Niner tight ends at the minicamp. There was no Kittle, but and I didn't see Braden Willis, but I saw Mason Pline, and I thought he looked really pretty good. I mean, and he was being coached really hard by Brian Fleury, who just seemed like he was talking to Pline the entire time. It's partly due to the fact that like Latu, Willis weren't there. The other guys, I think, were probably not going to make the roster or not even make the camp roster. But I think maybe they liked what they saw in Pline. Did you notice Pline at all? He wore 89, 6'8", rookie from Furman, basketball player. Did you notice him at all in the minicamp?
Yeah, he looked real good. I think he had the first catch of 7-on-7s. The first pass went to him. He looks like a natural receiver, and it may take him a little bit of a time before he's a 49ers caliber blocker at tight end. But again, Ross Dwelly wasn't a great blocker. He learned to give enough effort and he had good enough technique that he could even play a little bit of fullback. So maybe if they see him as like a Ross Dwelly replacement, someone who's more of a pass catching specialist. I mean, a lot of good coaches have taken former basketball players and turned them into NFL tight ends. Sean Payton did it with Jimmy Graham, and I'm sure Kyle Shanahan thinks he can do it too. Maybe this guy is the one. I mean, he's definitely interesting. Of all the UDFAs, this guy seems like he could be one who makes a team.
Yeah, we've seen it. Antonio Gates, Julius Thomas.
Julius Thomas, great call.
We've seen some basketball players, and they don't necessarily great basketball players, but they're basketball players. And then, the one thing about Pline is he looked like he had some upper body strength. He looks like he spent time working on his strength in the weight room. And he didn't look, for a guy who hasn't played a ton of football. I mean, this guy has really not played a lot. He did look pretty comfortable catching the football. So that to me is interesting. Now, Pro Football Focus has the Niners with the best grades of any team in the league at 2 positions, linebacker and tight end. And I get the linebacker because of Greenlaw and Warner, and all their backups are pretty good. I like Winters. I like Graham. Maybe even Bethune might do something this year. Flanagan fouls, Curtis Robinson. They got some good special teamers. I understand linebacker being a deep position for the Niners, especially with Greenlaw and Warner fronting it. But the tight end group in the NFL, the Niners have one. They have George Kittle, and then I like Pline, but he's an undrafted, guy who's unproven. Latu looks like pretty athletic, but he was horrible last year. Braden Willis didn't do much more. Tongues is just a guy. How are you telling me that there's not an NFL team that has a better group of tight ends than what the Niners have? I find that hard to believe.
Yeah, what about the Lions? They got Sam Laporta and Brock Wright.
The Niners tried to get Brock Wright.
What about the Chiefs? They have Travis Kelce, and who cares?
They had the Belldozer going for a while.
The Belldozer. That's right. Real quick.
What about the Raiders? What about the Raiders? They got Michael Mayer and Brock Bowers.
Yeah.
You telling me?
And then also at linebacker, like 2 years ago when they had Azeez Al-Shaair and Dre Greenlaw hadn't torn his Achilles yet, absolutely. But at this point, I don't even know about that one.
Yeah. I know.
Yeah. But when think about what Pline, I looked him up. He ran a 4.81.
Which is
a little scary to me. I think Latu is sort of in that range too. Like that's not particularly fast.
No, but I mean,
now again, Dwelly was even slower.
6'8".
Dwelly was even slower. I think he ran a 5 flat or a 5.1 or something amazing.
Did he really?
Let me look it up real quick. It's just incredible.
Could that possibly be?
I don't want to sell it short. Let me get it. Hold on.
He's supposed to be a receiving tight end.
Okay, no, I'm telling you, at his pro day in this was March 22nd, 2018, he ran a 5.11.
Wow.
Which just shows you like that he must be good at football to be able to like be a number one target. He was the number one target at San Diego. The whole offense went through him and his 5.1 40. Incredible.
Well, and it is FCS, and but I mean, he was a prolific receiver there. But 5.11, my God.
Have you seen him run? It's like slow motion.
I mean, literally, there are two gap tackles, defensive tackles that run better.
He ran 5.11 at 251 pounds. Like,
wow.
And he's been in the league this long. It's incredible.
Yeah.
It's hard to say why.
Incredible. Yeah. And we'll see if how he does in Atlanta. Him and Charlie Warner will be down there. All right. CBS Sports.
They're going to light it up, Larry.
Yeah. They're just absolutely. Kirk Cousins going to the Pro Bowl.
The Niners been holding him back.
Yeah. Brock Purdy. Okay, so I'm a big Brock Purdy fan, but CBS Sports is a bigger Brock Purdy fan. They ranked Mahomes 1, Purdy 2 in their quarterback rankings the other day. And I mean, come on. I mean, so what? This guy's better than Joe Burrow? I mean, I'm a Purdy nut. I love the guy. I think he's really, really good. I think he's legit. I've been saying it for years. But I don't think he's better than Josh Allen. I'm not saying he's better than Lamar. I would have Purdy probably between 5 and 10. And let's say in that 5, 6, 7 range. Other people probably have him a little lower, maybe in that 8 to 12 range. But 2 in front of Burrow, in front of Josh Allen. I mean, Joe Burrow played against the Niners last year and lit them up. Joe Burrow's performance at Levi's might have been the best I've seen anybody play quarterback against the Niners, not named Mahomes. So how do you not have Burrow too? In reality, I know sometimes I'm not sure where you're coming from on the Purdy front. Sometimes you seem more of a fan of him, and other times not as much. Where do you honestly think, if you're having an honest discussion, where do you honestly think he actually ranks in a totally unbiased ranking?
That's a hard one. That's a tough one. Because let me say what I like about him first. Let me try to figure this out. He is perfect for the 49ers. He's a great fit for their offense. There's nothing the offense asks a quarterback to do that he can't do. Also, beyond like executing the offense like Jared Goff can do, he can go off script, which is great. I think to be an upper level quarterback, you have to be able to go off script too. But he just has limitations that are obvious. that I think a lot of quarterbacks who aren't in as good of situations, and as good of schemes don't have. And I guess we'll never know for sure what Brock Purdy would look like on another team or what some of these other quarterbacks would look like on this team. But I have a feeling that if you put a lot of quarterbacks on the Niners, they'd look really good. And my evidence is Jimmy Garoppolo. Like, look how bad he was in Vegas and how good he was on the Niners. There's a big stark difference. So I'm not saying that Brock's fool's gold or anything like that, but number 2, he's not as good as his numbers indicate. He is good though. Uh, he's probably an above average quarterback in the NFL, probably. But is he a franchise changer on any franchise? Like, I don't know if he is. I don't think so.
He makes it look pretty easy. And he makes several things that are difficult look pretty easy. Like, I mean, Alex Smith, I think, said it best the other day on the radio. He's like, this guy shows so much courage, especially when you think about how big he is or how, the size he is. He's not the biggest guy. He's 6'1", 220, 225. He's decent size. He's bigger than a lot of people think, but he's not big. And he stands in there and takes hits and lets guys free themselves open downfield. He plays the position with tremendous courage. And then he plays the position on time and with accuracy. So, processing, accuracy, courageousness, he's got those traits. So I definitely think he's better than most people think. And I think he is legit, but I can't go 2. I can't go 2. I would have definitely Mahomes, definitely Allen, definitely Burrow, definitely Lamar. I guess I would put him in front of Stroud because Stroud's only done it for 1 year and he's done it for multiple years. But to me, he's right there. Him and Stroud are in that next group. And Stroud, if Stroud gets to that next level, Stroud's done some highlight reel things that demonstrate higher end potential. But Purdy's also done some amazing work in the playoffs against better teams. He led them back against Green Bay and Detroit. Thought he played decently in the Super Bowl. He hasn't played very many bad games. I mean, he played that Raven game. That was a bad game. There were maybe 1 or 2 others like that. Other than that, the guy plays pretty consistent football.
Yeah, it's still this very early in his career, and like that 3-game stretch when he didn't have Trent Williams and Debo, and all he had were Ayuk and Kittle and McCaffrey. Like, that didn't look so great, but maybe that's just an aberration in his career. And then, frankly, I don't think he's had a great playoff performance yet. I don't think
against Seattle he did. Remember he threw
that was super nice. That was statistically a great game. But the other playoff, he hasn't been bad in the playoffs. He has not been bad in the playoffs. Like, Jimmy wasn't
alarming. Wasn't very good in the Dallas playoff game.
No.
That was not
he wasn't very good against Green Bay, although at the end he was. And then he wasn't very good
against Green Bay.
Against Detroit, although he came through at the end. And then in the Super Bowl, he definitely wasn't the reason the Niners lost, but he wasn't great.
They were 3 of 12 on third downs. He could have converted more on third down.
It wasn't bad. But he wasn't
Though, I mean, that pass to Debo against McDuffie was a flat out dime, and McDuffie just made an amazing play on it. So, I mean, he's made, I agree with you. He's been good at times. He hasn't been, but he hasn't necessarily been awful, but that Raven game was bad.
Yeah,
but it's funny. Some people point to that game as the game that they like because he was still hurling it around in the fourth quarter. He didn't get gun shy by the fact he was picked off continuously in that game. Some of them were kind of freaky too.
Hey, Larry, you're very tough on Josh Dobbs for his performance where he threw 4 picks. That was a bad game.
Terrible.
That was a really bad game from Purdy.
But he also had a ball that was batted down by a corner that landed in another corner's hands. True. So I mean, there was he was bad. Let's just say this about Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy will throw the 50-50 ball. And so there is potential for any individual game to bad bounces, bad this, bad that, good, somebody jumps a route, to me, he didn't have Hamilton accounted for on that first drive at all. And and the ball placement was too much in the middle, and Hamilton picked it off in the end zone. That started the bad night for Purdy.
Well, the thing about Purdy too,
I
again,
didn't
it's
love
really
the game
in his
plan either,
career.
to be
So like
honest.
the luck hasn't even out yet, and it will. But you could argue that he's gotten the benefit of a lot of good breaks in his career, like in the NFC Championship game where he hit the DB in the face and it ricocheted perfectly to his receiver. Like that's a lot of luck on Brock's
Yeah.
part, on a lot of skill on Ayuk's part for sure. So yeah, those
I
things
hear you.
even out. Those
Yeah,
things even out.
and once you're scouted, I mean, I'll give you an example. Kaepernick.
Yeah.
Kaepernick threw a ball to Jimmy Smith in Super Bowl 47, where Jimmy Smith would have had an easy 6-yard pick six, but it had so much mustard on it that he dropped it. Well, fast forward 2 years later, and guys were anticipating that pass and they were catching it.
Mhm.
So I understand what you're saying.
Happened to Cap, happened to Jimmy. I'm not saying it's gonna happen to Brock, but
He's better than
my
them, but
I think he definitely is better than them for sure.
yeah. But
So
I think it's fair.
let's keep this going on with Brock though. So look what happened with Jared Goff today. Jared Goff gets a 4-year extension worth $212 million. And I think everyone would agree, even Detroit fans, that Goff is a good, not great quarterback. Good, not great. Is
Yeah.
that fair? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Like
I mean,
Goff would know that.
he's got, he had a great year this last year, but
He's a good
yeah, I mean,
quarterback.
what would we say it was every year? 53 a year?
50, 53 on average. 53 a year, 212
53 AAV.
over 4 years. It's a lot of money. Burrow's
Yeah.
getting 55. So
This
when
is
Purdy's up,
the NFL problem, is that you don't get paid, and then when you do get paid, you get paid at the top of the scale. It's all based on when you sign, and then
Mhm.
people pass you by. But for a while, all these deals are horrible at the beginning. Now, what do you think? Is Brock going to get that kind of money? Is he going to get north of 50?
absolutely. Again, if Goff's getting 53, Purdy has to get at least 54 because I think almost everyone would agree that he's better than Goff. Wouldn't you?
I would, but then other people would say that maybe I've heard people suggest that maybe he's going to get paid between 45 and 50 AAV to try to, make it so he could have a better surrounding cast. I don't know. I mean, it's really about his agent. He's got an agent based out of Nashville. It seems like it's always record-setting money. It's always record-setting money, and it probably will be north of 50 million. I've had people tell me it's going to be reasonable. I've had other people tell me it's going to be record-setting. So it seems like more times than not, these deals are record-setting.
Would the Niners be better off with Goff than Purdy? I don't think so because Goff can't move and Goff can't go off script, and I feel like that's been a big benefit from Brock Purdy, that ability. And so that plus the ability to perfectly execute the offense is going to get him at least $55 million a year, if not 60.
Wow.
And to me, I'm sorry, I like Brock Purdy. He's not worth it. And it's not his fault. It's just a crazy market. Wide receivers and quarterbacks
But what do you
are
do?
getting paid tons of money.
You're not gonna part ways with them and say, we're not paying him. They're gonna pay him. They're gonna pay him, and they're gonna keep him, and they're gonna bite. They're gonna bite down and hope it's not too painful, as far as trying to put a team around him. But it's a totally different challenge. As soon as he gets paid $55 million, suddenly it's a totally different challenge to win the Super Bowl than the one that they have right now. So
I think it's going to be a mistake if they pay him that much money. But you know what? We got a whole nother year to gather evidence before anyone has to make a decision. But that's a whole lot of money. And I think
it is.
The only time you should be spending that money on a quarterback is if you truly think he's great, like a future Hall of Famer. If not, I think you're just what did Detroit just accomplish by giving Jared Goff this money? They will now sort of be in the mix for a while until they slowly fade away as his contract gets more and more expensive. They're not going to win a Super Bowl with him. I feel pretty confident about that. They kind of sold themselves short.
I mean, to me, it's like, if you can put heat on the quarterback, obviously you can affect the quarterback. When you don't move well at all, I mean, it's not just Goff is not that mobile. It's that when you force him to move, his accuracy just totally bottoms out. Like if you let him stand there in the pocket, he will throw lasers to Amon-Ra St. Brown in the tightest of tight windows and look awesome doing
That's
it.
true.
But if
He
you
has
can
arm
force
talent
him
that
to,
Brock can't match, which is why he
and
was the number 1 pick.
yeah, I mean, the guy throws lasers, and he's got long arms, long legs, and he just really he gets a lot of velocity in the ball and in the short in those, like, I saw it in the playoffs against in their first playoff game where he threw these stop routes to Amon-Ra to keep drives alive, and it's like almost borderline unstoppable. Amon-Ra is going to go 7 yards and cut in, cut out, and Goff's going to throw that ball with anticipation before he even makes the break. Good luck defending that. I mean, but if you can do what the Niners did, which is speed him up, make him move around the pocket, suddenly he starts missing throws that are right there because he just doesn't throw well as soon as there's any kind of movement ability.
I mean, it's just like him, Kirk Cousins, good quarterbacks you like, you respect, but you look at their contract and you think, well, they're not going to win a Super Bowl. Like, the Falcons got Kirk Cousins. Great. Does anyone take them seriously? Maybe that's too simple. But if you're really spending top dollar for a quarterback, he better be elite. Truly. Good as Matthew Stafford or better.
You could make an argument Brock Purdy's already won more big games than Kirk Cousins in the NFL. Kirk Cousins doesn't win. Go back and look at all the big games. I mean, he played awesome against the Niners last year.
He really
did.
I can't get that out of my head how good he was.
Yeah, he was spectacular that night.
Yeah.
I almost feel like he steps it up for Shanahan. Because he just, there's that relationship there.
All right, didn't even have Justin Jefferson that day, and he was great.
I know. Well, thank you, Steve Wilkes, for the 0 blitz on the end of the first half to Jordan Addison. But yeah, with Jordan Addison as his number 1 guy, he lit the Niners ablaze, and there was no answer. They had no answer. All right, the NFL schedule comes out Wednesday, I believe. What are you anticipating? What are you looking for? Is there, to me, Niners play Green Bay, in Buffalo, in Miami, in Tampa. So those are like the coldest and hottest places to play. So I'm looking to see exactly, how many of those, are they playing Green Bay and Buffalo in December? Are they playing Miami and Tampa in September? If so, it could be a brutally tough schedule. If it's the opposite, it may not be that tough of a schedule. And then there's the London game. Is the Niners going to play the Vikings in London? And if so, that's a Viking home game with the Niners having 90% of the crowd most likely. So that would be an advantage. Some people, there's rumors today that Niners Cowboys may go in the first Sunday nighter. What are you looking for schedule wise? Is there some element or some angle that you're fixating on for Wednesday's schedule release?
I'm curious to see the back-to-back East Coast games. Those are always interesting. How many will they have? Will the Niners want to stay on the East Coast in between the games? But really, I'm just sort of thinking about, from a selfish way, like, which cities do I want to go to? Which cities am I excited to go to? I'm going to go to all of them. And how many snow trips are we making? When do we got to go to Buffalo? When do we got to go to Green Bay? Is it possible we could do that in September? Knock those off when it's not too cold. Or are we going to be doing Buffalo in December, Green Bay in December? I don't want to do it. I don't think Brock Purdy wants to do it. He seems a little averse to precipitation. Is that going to be a storyline this year? Brock Purdy and rain, Brock Purdy and snow.
God, I hope not. But it is until it isn't, right? I mean, how many times have you saw an NFL quarterback ever or college dry his hand off in the middle of a play?
That was wild. That was incredible.
You never see
that. Was just iconic. What is going on? Got to be a better way. There's got to be a better technique.
Well, and look how bad the throws were in that second quarter in Cleveland when there wasn't even a lot of rain. It was just some rain, and he's floating the ball. He loses his grip on the ball in wet conditions. And then didn't he start? I didn't notice it, but didn't he start? Was it the Detroit game or the Green Bay game with a glove?
I don't know.
Supposedly he started one of those games with a glove.
Okay, I'll go back and look. Yeah.
So I didn't notice that. But I heard that. All right, let's hit a couple supers, and then we got a couple more, and then we'll jet. Go ahead, Grant. You can read them for me since I'm blind these days.
All Niners says, Grant, can you start covering the Giants? They need your quality control bad. I was at the Giants game yesterday just for fun, and they freaking won. It was a great game. was a lot of fun. But
Jung-Hoo Lee separated shoulder.
Yeah, other than that, sorry, Jung-Hoo.
Yeah.
I like Lamont Wade Jr. I think he's a good player. They need to.
He's having an amazing year.
Yeah.
But the Giants cannot hit at all. And Farhan.
Not at all.
Not at all.
It was so funny when Casey Schmidt won the game, and I was sitting there just being like, this guy sucks. There's no way he's going to get a hit here, and he wins the game. I'm like, well, there you go. Good job, Casey.
I know, seriously.
I think that was his first hit of the season.
It was. And they probably could have gone with him instead of Chapman at third and probably had the similar kind of number. What do we got here? Official, what does it say? Official
BNM Music 88 says, I just hope Ricky isn't obsessed with cats like Dante Pettis.
Oh, gosh. If he shows up with blue hair, that'll be a bad sign.
Jason says, Grant, don't let passive-aggressive Lombardi get to you. Do a dual stream and just debate your points. Would be both of y'all's most watched videos. LOL. Okay. Before David started taking shots at me on his videos, I took him out to lunch at In-N-Out Burger just a couple months ago and proposed the idea of us doing a stream one time. This was during the season. I said, let's do it during the playoffs. And he said he'd think about it, which is a nice way of, it's a California way of saying no. He gave me a California no.
You guys get I sit right next to you guys.
That's why I was so surprised that he took such an overt shot at me. It's like, wait a second, like
you guys get along.
I owe you lunch. Like, what are we talking about? Yeah.
I mean, you guys are not, people would think that it's like battle royale. You guys seem to get along in each other's presence.
Yeah.
But
I was so surprised that he said that. It's like, wait a second. I just saw you an hour ago. We said hello to each other. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
No, I don't like you.
Well, I like
now
Dave.
I got to take a Boston cream pie and shove it in his face. I'm sorry.
He does some good content for sure. All I would say is if you're going to do this for a long period of time, and what do I know about it? I've only been doing it for a few years, but I've been covering the team for a long time. I think you have to have examples of when you absolutely were in lockstep with the team's message and absolutely were not. If you only have stuff where you're in lockstep with them and you never go against them,
ever,
to me, that hurts credibility. If you never, ever agree with them and you're just constantly always against them, that lacks credibility. I think there has to, come on, man. There's too many nuances to these arguments. There has to be some time where you're like, you know what? The Niners chose to do it this way. And I think they're wrong because of A, B, and C. And then maybe a couple other times where you're like, hey, you know what? Everybody's kind of ripping them, but this is where I think they're coming from, and try to kind of put yourself in their shoes and understand. And to me, that's why, there's times where I rip them and there's times where I'm complimentary of them.
Yep.
I'm not going to go over the top ripping them because they're in the NFC Championship game almost every year the last 4 or 5 years. But I'm also not giving them a free ride on personnel when their number one draft choices are Reuben Foster, Solomon Thomas, Mike McGlinchey, Trey Lance. You just see what I'm saying? It's like, you can't, you gotta call it straight. And those are not good moves. Lynch would not sit here and try to say they're good moves. So
the question is, how do you cover a team that has come close to winning a Super Bowl but hasn't won one yet? How do you do it? It's tricky. It's not like covering a team that misses the playoffs, but it's also not like covering a team that's won even one Super Bowl. And I feel like he covers them like they win the Super Bowl every year. And the results, like if you really knew ball and understood advanced statistics, you'd understand that the Niners really were the best team. And Super Bowl trophies are kind of an antiquated way to judge who is the best. Like, no, they have fallen short of their goal. And really, expectations, considering most people think they're the best team in football. I mean, no one thought the Chiefs were the best team in football last year. They were hanging around most of the season, then got hot. Everyone thought the Niners were the best team in football. They didn't get it done. Why? I think that's the conversation most people want to have with this team. Like, what's the one thing they need to do to get over the hump? And what's interesting about the Niners is that they think it's nothing. They think they're good. And so does David. So that's kind of interesting.
Well, I would say this too. Make an argument. Make your argument, but just acknowledge that you're making an argument as opposed to I'm just stating that they're right. It's like if you want to state that you believe they're doing the right thing, make your argument.
Yep.
But I'll say this: stats lie, liars use statistics, and you can get a stat that will
Yep.
tell you almost anything that you want to argue if you
Correct.
have enough time.
Go back and look
So
at the Jimmy Garoppolo era. There were stats showing that he was
yeah,
better than Aaron Rodgers. He, in fact, was not better than Aaron Rodgers ever in any
right,
day in his life.
right, ever,
No,
ever.
no, never happened.
Not even really comparable. So anyway, I think we are all in agreement. Balance. You got to have some
Yeah.
balance. You got to have some balance. Sometimes you got to rip. Sometimes you got to compliment. But if you do this long enough, you got to have both on your resume. Otherwise, you're going to get labeled, and it's as simple as that.
All I
And
would ask is Niner fans, like, look, I'm not trying to hate on Lombardi. He can do his style however he wants to do it. But since he wants to bring up my reputation and trustworthiness, just ask him to criticize something. Please, could you guys in the comment section, you watch his videos, ask him to criticize one thing, because if he does, it'll make him better. I'm not trying to get him in a gotcha moment. I'm trying to make him better. I'm doing David Lombardi quality control. Ask him to criticize one thing. It'll actually improve his content and Niners YouTube in general, because he's a big player in it.
yeah, my whole thing would be like, hey, you know what? Just be balanced. If I know you're always going to be anti, why do I need to listen? If I
Right.
know you're always going to be pro, why do I need to listen? Let's be surprised together. So no, but I mean I
But
like Dave,
if you
but
only
my
praise
only
people,
thing is just he sometimes will make it seem. Now it sounds like we're ganging up on him, but he'll make it seem like his point and his view is the only view. And I'll say the
yeah, that's
same
weird.
thing to Dave that I would say to Damon when Damon was going off on Jesse. Just if you think you put out good content, like I think I put out good content, I just put it out there. I don't put it out there and say only digest my content and don't digest anybody else's content because their content's not good. I'll let you guys decide if you think my content's better or worse than anybody else's, and I'm just going to keep putting it out there. But to me, the one thing is where you cross the line is when you start advocating for people to not support other people's content.
Yeah.
That's like having we've all done radio. I've done a radio show. I don't come on the radio show and say, listen to my radio show and don't listen to that show, that show, that show, or that show. It's like, I'm just going to say, listen to my show. And if you think those guys are great and it's like ice cream flavors, you think their flavors that great, go for it. I mean, I'm not going to tell you, what do I know? Maybe you think one of these guys is a genius. So if you think that, great, but don't advocate. It's hard enough to sit here in front of these mics and cameras and do all this, but it's hard enough to do it. You don't want to, I respect anybody who tries the endeavor. And so there were times where I was like kind of ripping guys like Ted and some of these guys. And it's like, wait a second. And I'm thinking to myself, what am I doing? They're putting out their stuff. They're trying the best they can. It's not my position to tell people don't follow. I may say follow me, but I'm not going to say don't follow
You
him.
said something that's key. Trying the best they can. If you put yourself out there, if you try your best to sift through what's good and what's not so good that the team's doing, you're going to be wrong sometimes. And if you can at least be transparent about it and admit when you're wrong, I respect you. But if you're going to say I'm never wrong and your track record is agreeing with the team all the time, like, what is that?
Yeah.
And it's not just one person who does that.
I think I'm pretty smart and get it right a lot. And, I said Fred Warner I didn't see it. I didn't see the genius in Fred Warner. Now I probably made that call way too soon before I really studied him, but I watched him at BYU and he was a grab and drag tackler. He was not a big hitter. He's now
he was a grab and drag tackler his rookie year too. If you go back and watch him in a 48 uniform.
Yeah. Now he's like, he'll hit you. Now he's big time.
Yeah.
And so I was wrong. So you know what? Sometimes you got to just say, I used to sign off all my radio
it
shows.
Makes you human.
Often wrong, seldom in doubt. That works.
See, you can laugh at yourself You could
Yeah.
admit when you're wrong. That's only endearing qualities. No one's going to watch you be like, oh my God, Larry was wrong one time. Unsubscribing. With this dork, he was wrong about one thing. Like, no, people just want you to be honest so they can follow your thought process. They value how you look at the game already. And they just want to follow along and have you be transparent. And I think that's a good thing to do as a journalist.
No, totally. Did we get this one? We got that one.
Jimmy hot trash, but McDaniels shake my damn head. McDaniels. What? What are we talking? Oh, so I thought Jimmy played well under McDaniels once upon a time back in New England. Paul Newland says, let's review the Niners' success at recent quarterbacks. Jimmy better than Rodgers, Garoppolo. Sam, reincarnation of Steve Young, Darnold. Brock, the next Joe Montana, Purdy. That's the thing. If you don't criticize, then you engage in hyperbole, and it just feels like none of the praise carries any weight. It's all watered down. Everyone's great. Well, what about the guys who are actually great?
I mean, the Sam Darnold, Steve Young thing, well, that's from Shanahan.
Yeah, that wasn't that was from Shanahan. But
that's from Shanahan.
Brock, I think it was after the Packers game where Brock
Brent Jones, I think, said Brock in Montana.
Well, it wasn't just Brent. But yeah, okay. All right.
But he was one of them.
All right.
But yeah, we we tend to get out over our skis. Not everybody, but sometimes everybody.
Bill Schuler, hey guys, Pearsall is a second round draft based on where the Niners had to pick. Judge him as a second rounder, yes.
That's, 31. I'll say, I'm fine judging him as a first rounder. I think he's going to be effective, but as I said, I think he's going to get open and then he's going to be shut down. He's going to get open and be like, oh, he's wide open. He's wide open. And then you're going to see corners close on him and he's going to be lots and lots and lots of contested catches. And then we're going to get back to my main question is, how tough is Ricky Pearsall?
If Pearsall isn't great, that's what the Niners will say. Well, he wasn't really a first round pick. But if he is great, they'll be like, well, this is one of our first round hits. He absolutely was when we knew he was a first round pick. I don't know. The Niners didn't give him a first round grade and they took him in the first round anyway. They could have traded down, but the next 3 picks were wide receivers as well. So maybe they got it right. Maybe if they wanted Ricky Pearsall, that's where Ricky Pearsall needed to be drafted. I don't know. I just felt like A.D. Mitchell went in the 50s and I think he's going to be better than Pearsall. And so I don't know. That's what
Xavier Legette went next. And that was the guy that I kind of wanted. I understand. I do understand that he was raw and it was going to take a transition. They went for the right now guy. We'll find out. He better be good right now.
Here's why they took him. He runs a full route tree. End of story. He runs the full route tree. And a lot of these wide receivers in college don't anymore. They run like 3 or 4 routes and you have to teach them the rest when they get to the NFL. And I don't think Kyle wants to do that. I think he values an old school skill set that not that many college wide receivers have, and this kid has it. So that's why I think they got him.
Yeah. And also their receivers got bottled up in the Super Bowl and it's sitting on his brain and he's thinking who can free themselves up, and this kid can. The question is, after he frees himself up and when he runs 3 more steps, is he covered again? All right, couple last ones. Can Malik Mustafa, who I thought was the most impressive player, to be honest, at minicamp, can he play free safety, Grant? Or is he a strong safety?
I don't know.
Can he play the
I don't have an opinion on that yet. I don't want to have a strong take on something I don't have a strong opinion yet. I want to watch more from him. And I want to say, of all the positions to evaluate in practice, I think safety is the hardest one. Really do. Like, they can't hit. They're not in man-to-man coverage often. If they get beat deep, you see it. If they have an interception, you see it. But otherwise, it's hard to see their impact on the game. Like, I thought Tavarius Moore was going to be good because he was intercepting Jimmy Garoppolo in practice. Turns out everyone does that. And he can't tackle. So it's like he can't even play safety.
Terrible angles.
Yeah, like I have a tough time with you were a scout. So maybe you could tell me how to look at the safety position in practice. It's hard.
Okay, so it's like sometimes in a story, facts that aren't necessarily in the story. And that's this guy. Like, I know this guy can hit. So I just watched a mini camp. I'm not really worried about his hitting because nobody hits anybody because I know the guy can hit. But I thought he moved around like a guy who could play free safety, and he was really, really decisive. And I thought his movements were explosive. I know he can hit. So to me, I
Take your
think he
word for
does
it.
have a future at free safety because I thought
Okay.
he showed the movement ability. But he's also kind of not the he's big. I mean, he's like a physical big, he looks kind of like a mini linebacker. So that's not typically a guy that can move, but I thought his movement was really good. So I think he probably can play free safety, but he better because I don't know what the other options are, especially with the Fonga out.
Yeah, it seemed. I'm curious to see what they do with him. It seems like Brandon Staley has a lot more of a creative control over this defense than they than people realize, and he does something interesting. Like he liked to use Derwin James around the line of scrimmage a lot. He has this position
Right.
called the star position. So are the Niners going to have something like that? They're not going to tell us. They're trying to add wrinkles to their defense that are going to surprise the league. It's possible. So maybe the Niners drafted Mustafa with that role in mind. He's actually going to be on the field a little bit as a rookie in a package role. Who knows? I'm curious. Could be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Couple last ones. We got our first interview
Because
of
he
Nick
did that at Wake
Soren.
Forest. He
Yeah.
played the
No, he
Panther
was
position.
he played that bandit and he was everywhere. He was up on the
Yeah.
line. He was deep. He was in the middle. Wherever they felt like they could best utilize him, he was a key guy in that bandit role
Mhm.
for Wake.
Mhm.
And any kid who goes to Wake, that's a really good academic school. This kid's really smart. He's sharp. You
Yep.
can kind of tell. Every interview that I've seen, I've thought, wow, look at this guy. This guy is absolutely what you're looking for as far as kind of a verbal alpha on the back end. And I think he has potential to be that. All right, Nick
Okay.
Sorensen. What did you think? This is our first go round with Nick Sorensen. I asked him two questions that I didn't love the answers. I asked him, why
Yeah, I heard
did
you.
Shanahan and Lynch pick you? And
Yep.
he's like, well, you'd have to ask them. Well, of course I'd have to ask them, but I'm asking you.
Yeah.
And then he said, well, because I'm like, he was like, I was in the room and I know the players and I know the scheme. So it really sounded like he could have shortened his whole answer with, I was the right guy in the right place at the right time. I mean, that's kind of what I took out of that. And then the other one, I asked him about the run D and improving the run D and how bad the run D got last year from the year prior. And he gave me the most non-answer answer. He's just like, well, we studied the Detroit film because I mentioned, hey, in the Detroit game, they're rolling up on you guys. Their offensive linemen are climbing up, picking off your linebackers. They're kind of dictating terms to you at the line of scrimmage. They worked your guys' D line. And he's like, yeah, we looked at the film and we corrected that, and that's going to be a source of importance or something going forward. And it was like, what is a source? It's like so I mean, he wasn't very expansive in his answers. And I just think of D'Amico and I think of Saleh, and they were so expansive in their answers. I don't know. I mean, verbally unimpressive, but what did you think?
I
That
thought he
would
was
be
kind of
my
just unimpressive overall. It wasn't just verbal. I totally agree with you. Like Saleh and D'Amico and even Steve Wilkes, like their first impression was, let me show you how much I know about football. And with D'Amico and Saleh, it was almost like, let me show you why I'm going to be a head coach too. It's like there's a whole presentation. It's not what I'm saying, it's how I say it and how I present myself. Like they would never wear a hat. Like Kyle does that because Kyle can. Sorensen comes in wearing a hat. He hasn't shaved. He hasn't gotten a haircut. He just looks like not prepared. Not prepared for the moment. Like this is your first impression. You could be a head coach in a year if things go well. He doesn't seem like a guy who expects to be a head coach in a year. He kind of spoke quietly. He didn't have anything specific to say. He was just not dynamic, impressive, and you understand why the Niners didn't make him the head. They could have made him the defensive coordinator last year, but they didn't. They went and hired Steve Wilkes. And then that didn't work out, and they're like sort of going back and reversing course. But I can totally see why they felt, no, I don't think this guy's for us. That was their reaction to Nick Sorensen last year. And then this year it's like, well, the players want someone who they like, who speaks their language. So, okay, we'll give Sorensen the job, but we're also going to hire Brandon Staley, who has more experience than him. And it really seems like you have Brandon Staley pulling the strings, and Nick Sorensen's a marionette. It almost looks like that.
Is Sorensen? Yeah, I mean, it's just such a weird thing. I mean, um, Sorensen didn't seem like he has the chops to command the room. That would be my first concern. It's like
Now,
obviously he
now
must.
that he can say, "Look, I've been running these, ball meetings, and so I have been commanding the room." I think that's why he got the job, because they've seen him run these meetings on Thursdays, and they must feel that the players respond because it's about creating turnovers, and they've been doing that or something. But I think that's what it comes down to. His communication with the players. They seem to like him more than they probably rolled their eyes when Steve Wilkes said stuff, and they seem to respond to Nick. Okay, well, we'll see how things go when he's really the guy.
And what's Staley's role? Because he was asked about Staley's role, and he was complimentary, but then
Holistic.
he didn't say where Staley would be on game day, if he'd be in the booth or be on the sidelines. He didn't necessarily have any specifics about what Staley's going to add. Is Staley an insurance policy against a first year coordinator, or is Staley the fallback plan? I mean, like we don't know which coordinator to hire. We're going to go with the guy the players like, but if it doesn't work out, we're going to yank his sheets and go to Staley. I mean, what I don't know. What's your read on how this is going to work out with Staley and Sorensen?
Staley seems like the guy the coaches in front office want, and Sorensen seems like the guy the players want. That's my interpretation. And since they overruled the players last year and brought in Wilkes and it didn't work, they couldn't do that again. So they tried a different setup where you bring in the outsider, but you don't make him the defensive coordinator. You make him the assistant head coach, and you make it seem like the player's guy is the defensive coordinator. He's the one leading the meetings. He's the one on the sideline. He's the one communicating with them. But who is the brains of the operation? When asked, Nick Sorensen said that Staley would have a holistic. He would be helping holistically. That means with everything. So he's the one with experience. He's the one who's been a coordinator and a head coach before. It seems like he would win any argument. He would have the trump card to any dispute. I don't know. But we're not behind closed doors. We don't know.
Yeah. I mean, Staley was celebrated as one of the up and coming young defensive coordinators in the sport. Sorensen's doing it for the first time. Two last ones, and then we'll jet. Bleacher Report had a breakdown on every team in the NFL post minicamp, and kind of broke down the Niners and who came and who left and what needs. And they say they still have needs at offensive tackle, maybe defensive tackle and defensive end, and suggested that if they were going to make a trade, maybe Jack Conklin from the Browns, who lost his job to Dawan Jones, maybe Lawrence Guy, who's a free agent defensive tackle, maybe Carl Lawson, who's an edge rusher. What do you think? Do the Niners need any more pieces between now and training camp? Do you think that they'll be in the mix for a trade for any, tight end, offensive tackle, defensive tackle, edge rusher, any of them, all of them? Where's the need in your mind?
I was going to say Jack Conklin, but I mean, was he hurt last year? Or did he just not play?
He got hurt, and then Dawan Jones came in. Yeah. And then Jones showed that he's 6'8", 370 and pretty good.
Yeah.
So now he's got the job.
Conklin was a good player. He was an all-pro twice.
Yeah.
He is about 30, though. I mean, is Colton McKivitz better than Jack Conklin? Can they not find a better right tackle than Colton McKivitz? Like, I understand that Colton McKivitz knows the system and is cheap, but other than that.
Well, how about Jalen Moore, too? I mean, Jalen Moore's your third tackle. Is Jack Conklin better than Jalen Moore?
Yes.
They talked up Jalen Moore, so I don't know.
The backup offensive tackles are Jalen Moore and Brandon Parker right now.
Yeah. I mean, I think Jack Conklin would be a very nice addition, to be honest, if they could get him.
It's so surprising how the Niners look at every offensive tackle that comes out in the draft and free agency, and they're like, no, not for us, not for us, not for us. But McKivitz is totally their type. I just don't understand what they're looking for at that position.
Maybe they want a guy who can do a good John Deere commercial.
I think that's it.
Last one. By the way, what rookie do you think, after having watched minicamp and knowing the roster as you do, which rookie is going to make the biggest impact as a rookie? What do you think?
Just after one practice, I'm leaning towards Renardo Green. No. Okay. I just want to get myself the out in case I'm wrong. But I'm leaning towards Renardo Green. I think I get the feeling the Niners don't want to play Lenore in the slot. I think they felt they had to play Lenore in the slot. It wasn't their initial plan last year. They moved him in there. He did a good job. But then they drafted Green, and you were there. Like Sorensen said right away, we're going to start him in inside. So if he shows he can play the position, I think that's his job. He's like the new Isaiah Oliver. He could be the starting nickel week 1. That's a pretty significant role. That's like almost 70% of the snaps. So we'll see if he can hold on to that job. But it's wide open for him to take it.
I'm going to say Cowing. I just think Cowing, between the route running and the quickness and all the other weapons on this team, this guy does get vertical separation and keeps it. I think he's going to be running in the clear, and as accurate as Purdy is with as much separation as that guy creates, I think there's lots of big plays to be made there. One thing I do want to mention before we get out of here, the Niners today promoted Josh Williams to Director of Scouting and Football Operations. Cool. And Josh and I both went to St. Ignatius together. He's a great guy. Now, he's younger than me, of course. But he's
a year older than me. He graduated in 05. I looked him up. He graduated in 05.
He worked his way through the ranks. He's a great person and a really good
Did the Harbaugh, did Trent Baalke hire him? Must have.
Yeah, I think he's been around for a number of years and he's worked his way up through the system. But Josh is a good man. So congratulations to Josh Williams for being the new director of scouting and football operations. Big job for sure. Okay, we've got a few more supers and we'll jet. If you could read
Smack Jones says, Grant says it's not me. I'm what the culture feeling. Thanks, Smack. I'll take it. Official Band of Music 88 says he better be better than Coleman in Buffalo. He better be better than Coleman in Buffalo.
Than Keon Coleman in Buffalo. Talk about Pearsall. Because Keon Coleman's a big receiver who went to Buffalo.
Trey Niner says running back could be the hardest position to evaluate in training camp, but how's the new guy looking? Yeah, it was 7-on-7, but both of them.
You gotta wait for preseason, really.
Really, you do. Both Garendo and Schrader made catches in 7-on-7, so they're in the game. They're off the schneid.
Garendo looks thicker on film than when you see him on the field. On the field, he's tall and rangy and fast looking, really fast. Schrader doesn't look like much, but Schrader's not going to look like much ever until the game start, and then he's going to look really good. Fish and chips, what is that? Is that a couple pounds he's throwing?
1 hour practice is pathetic and pointless. Hey, man, this is the new NFL. Like back in the day, they would do 2 days and stuff, right? This is,
oh my God, they'd be
still
out there right now.
Fish and Chip says, if you two don't get stuck into Sorensen, you're nothing. I don't understand. Get stuck into Sorensen?
Well, I'm not stuck into Sorensen. I don't know what that means. But we'll see. I don't want to say Sorensen can't do it because obviously the players like him for some reason. But we're verbally.
He played in the league, right? He played in the league.
Yeah.
He's one of them. That did Steve Wilkes play in the league? Not I mean, Sorensen played in the league for 10 years, apparently. So I think there's some respect there. Ryan's played in the league for a while. Staley didn't. So I think the Niners didn't want to risk it again with like another nerd. Not to say that Steve Wilkes is a nerd, but another like teacher type, professorial type. Like that's Brandon Staley. Let's have a football seminar. Like, I don't think the players want that. They want one of their own that they can talk to.
Well, also, I'll say this. The one thing I like about Sorensen is I like when there's a new guy in the room, it's too easy to just be like, he's the problem. He's the new guy. We were great before. Like the Niners run D was not bad last year because of Steve Wilkes. It was bad because they lost Mosley and Ward and Aziz and Ebukam, and they sold out for one pass rushing tackle, and suddenly they couldn't stop the run. But doesn't mean that Sorensen's the right guy either. We'll see.
Yep.
All right, that's going to do it. You got one final comment, Grant? What do you got cooking the rest of the day?
Dinner. I'm hungry, man. What about you? Are you working? Are you working again tonight? I'm gonna watch this game.
No, I'm gonna watch Giants Dodgers.
Yeah, I'm watching
Giants Dodgers.
Yeah. Yep. Watch the Giants.
All right, man. You and Pops tomorrow?
Me and Pops tomorrow.
Always the same time, or do you mix it up?
I think we're gonna do 11, but sometimes we do 12 if we can't get our stuff together in the morning. So most likely 11. We'll see.
Sounds good. All right. Thanks to Grant. Thanks to all of you guys. Thanks to Pig in a Pickle. Have a great day, everybody. Peace.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you won't get exact.